Chris Dumm didn't just walk away from Parker. He drove a knife straight into his back and shook hands with Rick Ness. Years of loyalty, sweat, and grit gone in a flash. The man everyone trusted just flipped sides and sparked a gold war no one saw coming. Now, the real game begins. Chris had always been the steady hand, the fixer, the guy who could bring a dead engine back to life with just a wrench, some wire, and a stick of gum. He was the rock. They'd survived deep mud, snowed-in camps, and frozen breakdowns together. And then, everything changed. So now the question is, does loyalty really matter? Or is it only good until a better deal comes along? Whose side is Chris really on? And will everything Parker built come crashing down? Tune in. The war for gold is just getting started. But things don't always stay the same. Then one night, he was just gone. And what we found hidden under his bed changed everything. It didn't start with yelling or slammed doors. It was more like a quiet storm, slowly building. The days felt longer, the nights colder. He still showed up, still worked hard, but something in his eyes had changed. People noticed. Maybe he was dreaming bigger, or maybe he felt stuck. Digging for gold is tough on the body, but it's even tougher on the spirit when all your hard work feels like it doesn't count. These days, even endless coffee and cigars couldn't fix it. And I knew, if I became the reason things slowed down, it would mess everything up. The camp had its own rhythm. The crew worked like clockwork, smooth and steady. But even the best machines wear out. He was always the guy who fixed problems, kept everything running. But people don't always see that. And after a while, it can feel like you're just spinning your wheels. Meanwhile, at another site, Rick Ness was dealing with his own struggles. His team wasn't perfect. They made mistakes, hit rough patches. But he kept going, kept building. He wasn't just hiring hands, he wanted a real team. So when he heard someone might be ready for a change, he acted quickly. No big offers, no flashy moves, just an honest talk. A chance to do more than work. A chance to lead, to be heard. Rick saw something others had missed. When the news got out, it spread fast. People were stunned, not just surprised, truly shocked. The kind of shock that makes you freeze with your coffee halfway to your mouth. Some doubted it. Others felt it right away. This wasn't just any crew member switching camps. This was the right-hand man. The steady one everyone counted on. Back at the old site, nobody said much. The boss kept his head down, focused on numbers and digging. But those who were close, they felt it. It was like a pillar had gone missing. He knew things no one else did. Knowledge built into every nut, bolt, and beam. Waiting is brutal. That feeling of not knowing if things will work out, it eats at you. And did we make it? Honestly, it was close. Over at Rick's camp, things felt different. Some folks were unsure, but most were fired up. It wasn't just about what he could do. It was about the vibe he brought. He didn't come in loud or trying to prove anything. He just got to work. No drama, no baggage, just results. The machines started breaking down less. Everyone ran tighter schedules. They weren't swimming in gold yet, but things were clearly moving in the right direction. His move made waves across the mining world. Old loyalties started to shift. Some people called it betrayal. Others saw it as a man finally standing up for what he was worth. He didn't wait for approval. He just fixed what was broken, made things better. And even the skeptics had to admit, he changed the game. Over time, he became a quiet kind of leader. Steady, smart, knowing when to push and when to let things breathe. Meanwhile, back at his old crew, people stepped up. Jobs shifted. Life went on, But the gap he left was real, a reminder that even the best teams need room to grow, or they risk falling apart. He left, but what came next rewrote everything. The guy who walked away from gold? He found something more, a place where he belonged, a new sense of purpose. And in doing that, he proved something powerful. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't staying loyal. It's having the guts to move on. This wasn't just one man changing jobs. It was a shift in mindset. A reminder that settling isn't the only option, that walking away is risky, but it might be the start of something better. He showed all of us that the best part of your story might still be ahead. He didn't wait around. He made his move. And whether people loved it or hated it, nobody could ignore it. Because when someone like him steps out of the background and takes charge, you know the ground is shifting. The change didn't tiptoe in. It came stomping. Boots caked in dust, shaking everything up. 1 minute, he was side by side with Parker, knee-deep in mud and dreams. And the next, he was standing tall next to Rick Ness, ready to build something new. They'd always been a team, so this wasn't just a job switch. It was a shakeup that turned heads and dropped jaws. Everyone was watching. Everyone was talking. He'd been part of Parker's world for what felt like forever. They'd been through it all. Tough seasons, busted equipment, non-stop pressure. To most folks, they were solid, like bricks holding up the same wall. But behind the scenes, it wasn't always smooth. There was tension, always there, just under the surface, hidden behind the dirt and the grind. Being in someone else's shadow takes a toll. Eventually, you start wondering what it would feel like to stand in your own spotlight. Rick Ness was facing his own uphill climb, tough, risky, and unpredictable. He had big dreams and wasn't afraid of the struggle. What he needed was someone who'd been in the trenches, who wasn't afraid to stir things up. And when the new guy showed up, he wasn't just a good fit. He was the spark. He didn't sneak in. He stepped in, straight up, ready to go. "Yeah, man, you hit the jackpot. I'll take a few ounces in rent," Rick joked. "But really, if this helps you get back on track, take it. No questions." This wasn't a quiet goodbye. Leaving Parker wasn't like clocking out for the day. It was like ripping out a page from a storybook, loud, messy, and impossible to miss. He wasn't just leaving a job, he was stepping away from something with history and heart. And people felt it. Some were hurt, some were angry, but no one saw it coming. Back at Parker's site, you could feel the difference. The air was heavy, like right before a thunderstorm. Work went on, but something was missing. Losing someone that's central hits deep. Trust takes forever to build, and only a moment to crack. But at Rick's camp, everything lit up. The new guy brought a new energy. The crew moved faster, tighter. It was like someone turned up the volume. This wasn't just another mining crew anymore. This was a team with fire, with something to prove. He wasn't just a guy holding a shovel. He was the statement. Rick was serious, and everything was about to shift. The fans? They went wild. Online forums exploded. Some were cheering him on, calling it bold and smart. Others, not so happy. To them, it felt like a crack in something they thought would never break. The word betrayal started flying around like loose gravel. But this wasn't a simple move. It wasn't just about chasing money or striking gold. It was about something bigger, freedom, maybe even a fresh start, a chance to build something on his own terms. Suddenly, every gold weigh-in, every machine breakdown, every little decision had eyes on it. Was Chris winning? Could Rick keep the pace? Was Parker hurt by it or just figuring things out? Nobody really knew. But that didn't stop everyone from guessing. Out in the dirt, work never stopped. Trucks roared, dirt flew, engines screamed. But something had changed. The old crew started digging deeper, talking less, like they had something to prove, not to the cameras, but to each other. That they still had what it took, that they were still a real team. Meanwhile, Rick's side kept climbing. Chris brought more than muscle. He brought momentum. The wins came quicker. The team started to click in a whole new way. "I don't know what's going on," someone said. "I can't reach him. No calls, no texts. Did something happen? Is he just late? Or is he gone for good?" People leaned in closer. This wasn't just about switching crews. It was about pride, about making your mark. Chris took a risk, and the impact reached far and wide. Some said he wanted respect. Others said he broke an unspoken rule. Either way, he changed the whole game. And that kind of loss, it hits hard. Even if it wasn't meant to hurt, it leaves a scar. Because when someone like that leaves, you don't just lose a teammate. You lose part of the rhythm, part of the story you were all writing together. Ever wonder what really happens behind the noise of roaring engines and all that shiny gold? Well, buckle up, because things get messy out here. In the world of mining, friendships don't always shine like the gold everyone's chasing. Take Chris Doumitt. People knew him as loyal, laid back, and the guy you could count on. But even the good guys get tired of being in the background. That's when things start to break. And not just the equipment. Chris and Parker, they had history. The kind of bond built through mud, stress, and long, cold days. But when the pressure kicked in and the gold stopped flowing like it used to, the vibe changed. Chris started wanting more. Not just to fix machines or move dirt. He wanted a say, to help call the shots, to get out of the shadows. But Parker? He wasn't ready to share the spotlight. Things were already tense. Then came the game changer. One handshake that flipped everything. Enter Rick Ness. Rick had been fighting his own battles, trying to prove he wasn't just a guy taking orders, that he could lead. He needed someone sharp, experienced, and already well-liked. Someone like Chris. And Chris? He was ready? Ready for a clean break? Maybe even to prove a point. One handshake later, and just like that, Chris was gone. This wasn't just about switching crews. It was about pride, ambition, and chasing something bigger. For some, it looked like betrayal. For others, it looked like courage. Chris joining Rick? That hit hard. Fans blew up online. Parker probably felt that one deep. But mining doesn't care about feelings. It's about results. And Chris made it clear, he wasn't here to play sidekick anymore. Teaming up with Rick came with challenges, new crew, new rhythm, new expectations. Chris had to show he was more than just the guy from Parker's camp. And Rick had to prove he could lead without dropping the ball. But they figured it out. Chris brought skill, Rick brought drive, and the gold started showing up. Word spread fast. Some people loved it, others weren't so sure. But everyone was watching, because shakeups like this don't come around often. Lines got drawn, teams got tested, and through it all, Chris kept his focus. Because this time, he wasn't following anyone. He was building something of his own. Mining changes people. Long days, short tempers, and dreams buried under dirt and ice. Maybe Chris never meant to leave Parker. Maybe he just saw an opportunity and decided to take it. But once you switch teams, there's no going back. Every dig, every gold weigh, every win and loss after that moment carried more than just dirt. It carried expectations. It carried eyes watching from everywhere, from TV screens, fan forums, and whispers in mining circles. From that moment on, Every move Chris made wasn't just his own anymore. It was a gamble, a strategy being judged in real time by anyone who was paying attention. People watched closely, holding their breath, wondering if his decision would hold up through the seasons ahead. They watched Rick, wondering if he could lead without his right-hand man. Adjusted the feed rate, adjusted the water. It was tough, but fun. It was all wide open, water, material. They watched Parker, too, asking themselves whether he'd be weakened or fired up by what was happening around him. Gold fever doesn't care who you are. It consumes everyone, the bold, the cautious, the strong, and the weak. As the days went on, Chris's choice wasn't just a decision, it was a game changer. It wasn't a regular career move or a shift in the industry. It was a whole new definition of loyalty and ambition for the miners and for the fans who followed them closely. This wasn't just a small part of a long story. It was a headline that wouldn't fade away. Because in this business, beneath the grime and hard work, there's always drama. Power struggles, big dreams, and pride, so sharp it could cut steel. Chris leaving didn't just change the crew's lineup, it sent shockwaves through everyone. The effects were felt right away and lasted a long time. Every word, every look, every comment was now under a microscope. Trust, which used to be given freely, became rare. What used to be easy to talk about now had to be handled carefully, behind closed doors. Even the land seemed different, colder, even though the engines roared and the crew's tired camaraderie still warmed the air. Chris was gone, but it felt like he was still there, his presence lingering in every corner of the operation. Rick felt the weight of this change the most. He was the one left behind, expected to step up, to adapt, and to keep pushing forward. All eyes were on him, waiting to see if he could handle the pressure without his right-hand man. Testing those two plants today was a good move, but we need to make some decisions. Time's ticking. Did Rick have what it took? The technical know-how, the emotional strength, the grit to keep going when everything felt off balance? The answer didn't come from one big win or one season's total. It came from the little things, how he handled problems, how he bounced back from setbacks, how he kept the crew motivated when things were tough. These were the real measures of his leadership now. But Rick didn't back down. He faced the challenge head-on with the same calm confidence that made him reliable before. His crew adjusted. It wasn't perfect, but they all knew leadership isn't about being flawless. It's about showing up every day, no matter what. There were mistakes. Some goals were missed, but each time they chose to keep going. And that choice, to keep fighting, was worth more than any gold they could dig up. Because mining isn't just a job. It's a way of life. It's about surviving, adapting, and not getting swallowed up by the grind. Meanwhile, Parker watched from afar. He wasn't just a competitor. He was a quiet observer. Chris's decision hit him too, even if he wasn't part of the direct action. When things like this happen, they shake everything up. Talent moves, alliances shift. These changes affect the whole operation, from trust to supplies to the bottom line. Parker, always intense and driven, didn't say much about the change, but anyone who paid attention could see it in his actions. He was tighter with his team, more thorough in his inspections, and there was a sharper edge in his voice. He wasn't talking about the change, he was responding to it with results. Mining isn't just about digging up dirt, it's a test of people, a battle of egos. It's a place where pressure reveals what people are really made of. When every move is under the microscope, the heat of the job forces people to show who they truly are. The ones who break, and the ones who keep fighting. When Chris left one crew and joined another, it wasn't just his future at stake. It became a challenge for everyone who stayed behind. In the weeks that followed, the engines kept roaring, and the air was thick with diesel fumes and a strong mix of ambition. New systems were put in place. Changes were made. Sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. But through it all, the search for gold, unforgiving and relentless, kept moving forward. That's Gold Run, a creek rich with gold. And where it flows into Dominion, I think it's somewhere around here, Chris explained. His new role came with challenges he hadn't faced before. A different pace, new personalities, and fresh obstacles. Though many believed he could handle it, belief alone doesn't get the job done. Results do. In mining, results are everything, and they're weighed in gold. Every gold count became a test of Chris's judgment, loyalty, and whether leaving his old crew was a smart move or a mistake. The numbers didn't lie, but they didn't tell the whole story. Behind each ounce of gold were moments of near disaster, quick fixes, tense conversations, and small victories that no one else saw. Success wasn't just about proving the choice was right. It was about building something strong on its own, separate from old ties or the expectations of fans. Outside the operation, fans analyzed every episode, every moment of tension. Their opinions, quick and everywhere, ran alongside the main story. Some called Chris a visionary, while others saw him as a traitor. But no matter if they were cheering or criticizing, they were hooked. Because in this shift, there was something everyone could relate to: the desire to grow and pursue something better, even if it meant leaving comfort behind. That's what resonated with people. That's why they kept watching. The effects of Chris's move didn't just change his own story. It affected Rick's leadership and ability to stay strong. It challenged Parker's control and strategies. It gave Chris a chance to redefine his future. Most importantly, it reminded every miner and every viewer that nothing is ever set in stone. Loyalty can be both a strength and a weakness. Ambition can drive you forward or leave you isolated. And gold, no matter how shiny, is always a hard prize to catch. Sometimes, chasing it leads you down darker paths than you ever expected. So, was Chris chasing gold or running from something deeper? Let us know what you think in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Dig for Truth.